Drug culture hit the district. You started to see more traces of immediate cash flow. You started to see kids who were from low-income homes who used the drug trade and who used the environment that existed in the district at the time to get immediate gratification. So you started to see kids who, as I stated, didn't have anything, that they used the drug scene and the drug trade to blow up, if you will.
Washington, D.C.'s crack epidemic had been birthed by the explorations and devotion of drug lord Rayful Edmond III and the lack of authority enforced by Mayor Marion Barry. This unseen epidemic changed the city tremendously, bringing unprecedented numbers of narcotics and a transition into a new wave of violence. From the mid-1960s to the late 70s, Washington, D.C. was highly focused on issues dealing with the civil rights movement. The city was also recovering from the traumatic riots in the response to the MLK assassinations in 1968. Black activists started to become involved in local D.C. politics. One of the most prominent of these activists was Marion Barry. Before relocating to D.C., the young activists had been making a change in several other ways, from being a member of the Nashville Student Movement sit-ins to serving as chairman for SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. He had a vision and he knew that he could bring that to the city. Marion Barry, when coming to D.C., served first as a D.C. council member from 1975 until 1979, then soon worked his way up to second mayor of the city in 1979, beating Walter Washington. As mayor, Barry has done things for the city that no other mayor has ever done. Like, for instance, he initiated the Summer Youth Employment Program that brought jobs and internships to the youth around the city. He also constructed the Franklin D. Reeves Municipal Center, home to offices for the district government, and he robustly revitalized the U Street, accommodating jobs and other investments after the upspringing of the D.C. riots. All of Barry's success in the 1980s, things for the nation's capital took a turn for the worse.
Rayful Edmond III.
Cocaine kingpin Rayful Edmond.
Rayful Edmond III is charged with heading the city's largest cocaine ring.
By the 1980s, the city was just starting to feel the effects of the heavy narcotics that was entering the city, and quickly dealers such as Rayful Edmond started to make a name for themselves.
Rayful is an iconic figure in D.C. He's a polarizing figure. He was by all accounts and news accounts and through media sources, you'll find that Rayful was a very popular person. He was a person who could take a community under his wing and elevate it to levels they unforeseen.
The name Rayful Edmond quickly became known as the lure of crack and its associated violence swept the city. Growing up in a home with his mother and grandmother at 407 M Street Northeast, Rayful was a high school star basketball player who sold a few bags of marijuana a week to put some money in his pocket. Rayful's father, Big Ray, dropped his human resources job in order to take up a more lucrative employment, selling cocaine and other narcotics in D.C. and New York. College was never an option for young Rayful, according to Big Ray, and selling drugs seemed to be the only option. Constance Perry, Rayful's mother, stated that it all started with his daddy. He led by example. In 1981, Edmond had his first encounter with selling a large amount of cocaine when his father gave him 1 kilo of cocaine in New York and told him to go back to D.C. and sell it. Edmond successfully completed his mission and was hooked. After the first taste of dealing and drug money, there was no turning back. On the 500 block of Orleans Place in Northeast D.C., Rayful Edmond created a massive enterprise. Rayful had teams of people 24 hours a day who imported pure cocaine into the city, turned it into crack, worked the block selling the product, and got rid of anybody that was a threat to their turf. At his peak, Rayful was making $2 million of profit per week. The flourishing business afforded his young executives a style of life well beyond their working class origins. Rayful himself owned a fleet of cars, including a Mercedes-Benz, several BMWs, several Porsches, and a Jaguar convertible with golden-lated hubcaps. It wasn't uncommon for Rayful's crew to see him buy a $45,000 Rolex watch or see him wear a $15,000 necklace covered in diamonds. Rayful took his entourage on all expense-paid trips, from Super Bowls in California to Mike Tyson fights in Las Vegas. And in a city where the president is looked at as the top dog, Rayful Edmond was filling those shoes. Rayful made shopping sprees for his team a norm. Purchases totaling $457,000 over 2 years at Le Petit, a pricey Italian men's boutique in Georgetown, made it worth their while. And this was just on suits, clothes, and $600 shoes. Money was all Rayful wanted, and he was going to get it. Edmond had control of a sizable share of the drug trade in the district, bringing in millions of dollars of Colombian cocaine each week from Los Angeles. Rayful had a connection and he knew where to get the best cocaine from. He had one motive, and that was to take control of the drug trade in D.C. and get all the money and respect. By this time, Rayful was known to be the main supplier on Orleans Place. Other neighborhood gangs were starting to develop a sense of jealousy for the money and drugs Rayful had. Rayful's top enemies were from the Trinidad neighborhood located 5 or 6 blocks away from Orleans Place, and they were always trading fuel through gunfire. Rayful and his gang had to always stay alert and carry weapons with them anywhere they went. Although Marion Barry was one of the most effective political activists to come to D.C. and certainly make several changes to the development of the city, some of his actions weren't contributing positively to the success D.C. was working towards. Some of Barry's actions often paid a toll to the aspirations of drugs within the city. Along with changing the development in the inner city of D.C., rumors began to circulate that Barry had begun to dabble in addicting substances. With the drugs being at the top of the city's to-do list, it seemed strongly peculiar to hear that the city mayor might be contributing to the spread of this deadly drug. Barry soon connected with Charles Lewis, who was the assistant to the Virgin Islands Governor Alexander A. Fairley. Fairley put both Lewis and Barry on a project that had them working closely together in D.C. and the Virgin Islands. Lewis, who first came to the district in 1979, had already begun to use cocaine, and he had been building a strong relationship with Marion Barry. On several occasions, Barry and Lewis were found together in the Ramada Hotel with allegations that Lewis had sold cocaine to Barry and tried to sell cocaine to one of the maids in the hotel. The Department of Justice started to monitor Marion Barry activities after hearing about the Ramada Hotel incident. For example, an investigator by the name of Sharon LaFerriere began to follow Barry heavily, and she had been informed that Barry was buying cocaine from Charles Lewis. Soon, reporters from all over the city was on the story of Barry doing crack, and hopping aboard the investigation was also Sergeant Albert Lee Arrington. Arrington one day said that they thought that Mayor Marion Barry could never be gotten on a drug charge. Well, that was the case until on January 18th, 1990, Marion Barry was arrested on charges of possession of cocaine at the Vista International Hotel in downtown D.C. Sources from the scene say that before the arrest of Barry, the mayor had smoked crack cocaine several times. With Barry was a woman from California named Rashida Moore, and sources said that she didn't participate in any of the use of cocaine or sexual activity.